So what's the Grape Explorer talking about today? Well, I wanted to share a very special episode with everybody here and talk about something that, of course, is near and dear to my heart. It's wine. As you know, if you've been following me, very passionate about wine. But how did I get to this stage? Well, when I first started on the wine business, you know, we're going back a little ways. Let's go back to 1981. And I started a job in the Boston area working for a wine company that was very, very serious about wine. Yes, 1981. There was no, Napa wines, so much to speak. There was no Argentina. There was no Chile. There was a little Italian wine here and there. You saw a lot of French wines. You saw a lot of Italian wines, but guess what? That was my start, and it's been a long road. And but think about this. It's well over 40 years to devote my life and my energy and my passion to wine. But guess what? When I first started my job, I had no idea about wine. I didn't know regions and areas. So my first boss told me, if you want to work for this shop, and we are one of the top stores in Boston, you're going to have to do something. And he handed me this book. And he said, you're going to have to read this book inside and out and memorize everything about it. Of course, I was like, whoa, that's an awful big book, And we're talking about different regions and everything like that. But Hugh Johnson, who wrote this book, he's updated this book many, many times. I mean, we're talking about the world. And what I like about Hugh, which is really interesting, these maps, because he really goes into detail exactly what is going on here with these maps. And they're so beautiful. And anybody can buy this book. I mean, it's called Hugh Johnson's Encyclopedia of Wines. And any bookstore should be able to have this. But look, Napa Valley, and you've got Washington State. And a lot of these areas were not even that known when I started reading. You've got also, look, you've got the Rieslings here of New York State. You got Bulgaria, and it just goes on, and Tokai, and it goes on in Switzerland, and the Rheingau, and they got the German wines. And, just my point here is what I'm trying to say. This is a beautiful, beautiful book that can actually get you into wine. If you're just learning and you really want to know, all about wine, again, this was the first book that I was told to buy. And I was like, okay, memorize every region, you got to know everything from Pauillac to Pomerol to the Rheingau to Chianti Classico to, and it's like, whoa, this is a big world. How am I ever going to learn all these things? Just read this book. And this is not only a book about wine, it'll tell you how to serve wine. It'll tell you about the history of the vineyards. It'll tell you how barrel winemaking, how they actually use the barrels here. This is also, they bring up a cork, so you have to know exactly what corks they use. Of course, the corks are from Portugal. Then it's called Winemaking 101, how to make wine, how to learn about wine, Cellar Master. Again, this is all involved in this book. So you could listen to my videos. Look at the grapes. We're talking about every grape that is what we call Vitis vinifera, the best of the winemaking grapes, not the grapes that you buy, at your local grocery store. These are wines like Chardonnay, Cabernet, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon that we talk about. And again, this is what I call the Bible of wines. Hugh Johnson, he passed the baton to Jancis Robinson, which is one of the top leading wine writers in London. And of course, Hugh Johnson, who's a very shy guy, doesn't come out, doesn't say too much, just keeps writing books, keeps putting together great things. Before Robert Parker was actually the wine advocate, before the Wine Spectator was actually reviewing wines, or any of these wine writers reviewing wines, this was the guy. This is the guy that you paid attention to. We didn't even know who wine writers were. In 1981, nobody handed me, a Robert Parker wine advocate and said, oh, start reading this so you can learn about wines. He didn't even exist in those days. This was the chap. This was the book. I recommend this to everybody. If you want to learn about wines, and it's really, you want to get the passion that I get out of wine, and the passion, again, we're talking about history, We're talking about wine. We're talking about food culture. We're talking about geography. Learn about the world of wine. Again, this is David Kohl, the Grape Explorer, talking about how to learn about wine.